Skirt, skirt. Told you we always been ready. I don't need people that's petty, that weigh on me heavy while I'm being steady. I need a record with Felly. We get it bouncing like Betty's, I feel like I'm Nelly. Don't bring the beef like a deli. It's leaving not levy, no sleeping on me like I'm Freddy. Chris Breeze, how I do, hit him with the moves. Left hand step back, ballin' like I'm cool. All faith, God's plan, you just gotta choose. God slaps, nothing left to prove. Y'all gotta leave me alone. Lately I've been in my zone. Told them no cap like I fitted, but lately the flows have been straight off the dome. I feel like I'm MVP, like my name Patty Mahomes. If it ain't about money, don't hit up my phone, cause lately I've been in my zone.
Hello, welcome to the Cowboy Show, hosted by Ben Carey and Nick Gronerad, combining expert human opinions with cutting-edge simulation models to help you arrive at the best picks each week. Inside Edge Community. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's stream. We have a pretty solid college basketball slate today, I would say. Would you agree with that, Wylie?
Oh yeah, it's a couple marquee matchups today that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, a lot of marquee matchups. So as I'm sure everybody can tell, we have a new guest on the stream today, Mr. Wylie. Wylie, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I joined the community about 2 months ago. Mostly, me personally, I'm a college football, basketball expert. I know the other sports, but I make most of my money, most of my picks on college basketball, and found some success, especially recently.
And according to the clothing that you're wearing, it looks like you're a big Michigan State guy.
I am a Michigan State guy. Yep. Still going to school there.
So how you feeling about them today?
Needless to say, I've had more than a handful of messages about the line being sketch, and I couldn't agree more. But this is we could talk about it more later. But it's a spot where I want to bet the team and not the line, because Maryland's a team where they've gotten favorable lines to me all year, and they haven't done much with it.
Yeah, so we can touch in a little bit more on that game later on. I think that's going to be an interesting point of discussion at some point. But for everybody who is new to the stream, here is how it works. So we have 5 pick categories that you can see listed on the side of the screen. For each of those categories, we have a game that we have selected that we're going to talk about for that category. And then in addition to us talking about them, I'm going to throw up polls for all of the games, and I want to get the audience input as well. Got to see how I do, got to see how Wylie does, and got to see how you, the audience, does thinking about these games. So without further ado, let's hop right into it with category number 1.
Degenerates only.
I was looking at Ball-Sack State -4 against Dickhead State. Ball-Sacks covered their last 10 straight games, and my boy says they're a wagon.
So for category number 1, D-Gens only, we have a team that I love to talk about on this segment, which is the San Jose State Spartans. This is a dumpster fire of a basketball team, and they play out west, so it's always like the late game, right? There's nobody who's ever scrambling to bet San Jose State games just for fun, right? You do it out of necessity, out of degeneracy. So today, San Jose State is hosting Fresno State. San Jose State, despite being the home team, is an 11.5 point underdog, and the total in this game is set at 128.5. So Wylie, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so definitely a degenerate game. Probably not one I'm going to touch personally, just because, I mean, San Jose State's been a team you could fade all year. You'd probably be up a lot of units. Mm-hmm. But Fresno State's by no means world beaters, and it's quite possibly the first double-digit spread they've had all year in their favor. Fresno State's not great by any means, but it's more betting against the bad team than with Fresno State, I think.
Yeah.
If I had to decide, I'm going Fresno State.
You're going Fresno State. If you had to decide, would you rather take a total pick here?
Not at 128. I don't think. Not at 128.
Yeah. So this Fresno State team, I think the last time that we saw them play was one of the most legendary moments in Book It Sports history, I would say. The game against Boise State that they had, that they closed out. Trent's parlay. Boise State hit a buzzer beater 3 to send the game into overtime, and then won it in OT and won Trent a bunch of money that he proceeded to blow on the NFL the next day.
Yep, threw it away on the Rams or the
on the Chiefs.
On the Chiefs.
So I'm with Wylie here. If I'm taking a side, I'm taking Fresno State. More so betting against San Jose State than betting on Fresno. The model has this game as a 69.1 to 55.4 win for Fresno State. So it's Fresno by about 13.5 points, and also the under by about 4 points. So I think that both of those are leans that I have. I think actually though, for my my lean on the stream, I'm going to put up an under at 128.5. I'm not sketched out by the low number. I think that this is a game that Fresno's going to kind of control the tempo. I think that they're going to be ahead. I don't think we're going to see a ton of free throws down the stretch, which is the other thing that's kind of important with a model, or with a not a model. I mean, a model score this low, and a score from Vegas it's this low as well. Also, a couple things. Thank you to Will Water and to Broken Image Design for the subscriptions. Appreciate those very much. So let's take a look and see what the chat has to say. Chat seems to be a little all over the place. Well, actually, all over the place spread-wise. So 11 votes on each side of the spread. But the total, everybody likes the over. Was there somebody on Twitter that gave out this over?
Not that I saw.
Usually when chat is so unanimous about something like this, it's because there's somebody that had it as their pick of the day. But I'm not seeing anything. So it looks like everybody.
I'm not either. If I had to choose, I'd lean the under. I don't think I could choose a side there, but I think I would choose the under, just because, again, I think, like you said, Fresno State should control this start to finish, whether they cover or not, and they play it slower than tempo.
Yeah, and I think that San Jose State this year has historically been a team that kind of plays to the tempo of their opponent. They'll run and gun with fast teams, and they'll play it slow with slower teams.
Yeah.
So definitely looking like the over with 62% of the vote is the chat's lean. Oh, actually, no. It looks like we have a late surge from Fresno, overtaking the over. What a comeback by Fresno State. So now we actually have to go and change that. So we have 46% of the vote on Fresno compared to 43%, or 66 on Fresno, 63 on the over. So chat didn't want to fade me. They got scared. So Fresno is the winner of the poll. Should be not a good game to watch, but a game to watch at 11 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. Once all the marquee matchups are done, you need something else to watch. This is probably the best one.
No, this is the only one. This is the only 11 o'clock Eastern tip-off.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Nevada's 30 minutes before.
Mm-hmm. And Nevada's going to be a much better game than this one is. So somebody asked about input on Davidson. It's an interesting game. We can touch on that at the end. The Davidson game isn't something that we have on the schedule for today, but we will have some time for Q&A at the end. And Nadi says we would never fade you. No, you guys would fade me. You faded me before. You'll fade me again. You faded Wylie before. You'll fade Wylie again. Whoever's on chat loves to fade until they get called out on it.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on now to category number 2.
Public intoxication.
Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype.
So the public intoxication game today, a game with big public action, is a game that I was a little bit surprised to see have so much public action on one side. And that is the game between Texas A&M and Tennessee. So I think what was off-putting to a lot of people is two teams with basically identical records. And one of those teams, it was an 11-point underdog. So in this game, we have Texas A&M, who I believe is sitting at 15-6 or 14-6. Let me pull this up to make sure I get the right number.
It's 15-6 for A&M and 14-6 for Tennessee.
Yeah, so we have two conference opponents, and Texas A&M actually technically has the better record. But they are 11-point underdogs. And this opened up at not 11, but 12.5. I'm showing, courtesy of Action Network, 90% of the bets coming in on Texas A&M plus the points. And that's especially unusual because usually these heavy public plays are favorites that the public thinks isn't getting enough points, and not an underdog that the public thinks is laying too many points. So Wylie, are you with the public here? Are you taking the Aggies plus 11, or are you going to fade the public and take Tennessee?
I'm gonna fade the public here. It is a lot of points, but I think it's a lot of points for a reason. A&M, I mean, they've kept games close. I'll give them their credit. They've kept some of the games close, but they haven't won really a big game yet this year. They've lost to every decent to good team they played. Sometimes they've kept close, but they just lost to South Carolina at home by 11. And now they're back on the road taking on a Tennessee team that is far superior to South Carolina.
So you like Tennessee laying the 11?
I do. It's a lot to take, but if I had to choose a side, I would take Tennessee.
Yeah, and important to note that these are games that are some of the most interesting games, not necessarily the actual ones where there's the best bets to be made.
Yeah.
So important for everybody to note that just because we have something down as a lean, it's not necessarily something that we have actual action on. Until we get to the last category. The last category is where our personal biggest action is of the day.
Yeah, I won't be taking Tennessee, but I'm fading the 90% of you and taking, if I had to, Tennessee.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna agree with the public here. I like the Aggies here. So the model has this game as a very low scoring game, first off, but also has A&M keeping it pretty close. So I have about 63 to 57.5, Tennessee winning. So under the total by about 10 points, which is a little strange to me. I didn't bet that under either. It kind of sketched me out a little bit too much. But I think that the Aggies can keep this close-ish, we'll say. So they've played a couple pretty decent teams on the road already this year in SEC play, in Arkansas and LSU. That LSU game, A&M was 9-point underdogs on the road. They ended up losing that game by only 6, and they were actually leading it most of the way down the stretch. And then against Arkansas, Texas A&M was again a 9-point underdog, and that was a game that they took to overtime. I think this Tennessee team is better than each of those teams, but I think with the tempo, this should be a pretty low-scoring game. I just don't know that there's going to be enough time for Tennessee to consistently stretch this out to 11.
Yeah.
So that's my concern.
This is one I just quickly looked over the schedule. They've got, what did I say, 4 losses or 6 losses on the year. Only 2 of them have come by double digits, and they were both right exactly at 11. So that kind of more speaks to me on like how could this spread possibly be 11? Like I don't ever like to look at just one thing when I'm like tapping a game. So this is a spot where I'm looking at the teams, but I'm also looking at the line. Like the line doesn't make sense at 11. and Tennessee's the better team, so I'm gonna give them the edge to me today.
Yeah, the line is definitely a little sketch, sitting at 11. I will completely agree with that. My opinion is, unless there's something that I can identify that like is making it sketch, then I'll fade it, just completely fade the game. But I just think this is a case of a team laying too many points. So the chat agrees with me and agrees with the public, and likes Texas A&M plus 11 here. So I will throw that up as my lean and as chat's lean.
So this might be a good spot to talk about the Michigan State game as well, because I don't know the exact numbers, but I had somebody at me on Twitter saying like 90+% of the money is on Michigan State today.
Yeah, I'm showing 88%. That must have moved, because that was a game that I wanted to talk about. Also, why does Wylie look like he's in a bad mood? I think that's my fault. I think that somehow the screen capture got like squished a little bit. So that might be a reason for that.
Drake said 96% of the money is on Tennessee. But that's like opposite, right?
Yeah. On action, I'm showing 90% of the bets on A&M. So that is very much, if 96% of the money is on Tennessee, very much pros versus Joes type of game. Also, I see questions about like the Kansas-Iowa State game, about the Rutgers game. We can do some Q&A at the end. So, but yeah, we can spend a little time and talk about Michigan State here, because I mean, it's not my favorite bet. Is it something that you have for your favorite bet of the day, Michigan State?
It's not my favorite bet of the day. I've got like 3 picks, honestly, that I could choose.
Yeah,
my favorite bet of the day.
Just wanted to make sure that we're not spoiling that and talking about it out of place. But what are your thoughts on your Spartans today?
So, part of me, like, I think this line is so low, like I mentioned, because Maryland, just me noticing, has gotten a lot of respect from the books this year, and I think it's respect that they haven't deserved. I mean, this past Saturday alone, they were at home against a better Indiana team, and Indiana was favored by just 1 and had no issues putting Maryland away.
I was all over that Indiana spread in that game.
I was as well. And another reason I think this spread's so low is because prior to, like, we beat Michigan by like close to 20. I don't remember the exact score, but beat them easily. But before that, we lost terribly, like put up 55 points to Illinois and weren't looking good. I think after that Michigan game, this feels like a spot where we go on a run. Like, we don't continue to struggle and at least beat this bad Maryland team by 4 today, if not more.
Yeah, so you know what my opinion is on some of these games that we've seen in the Big Ten? Is that the first couple of weeks of Big Ten play, we saw home teams winning and covering pretty much every single game. And I think that started to get baked into the line. We saw it with that Maryland game against Indiana was a great example. Iowa at home against Purdue, I think, was another great example of home teams just being overvalued right now in the Big Ten. And I think we kind of have to adjust the thinking from what it was before, which is Big Ten home teams, you can't really bet against them, to now maybe it's Big Ten home teams are a fade spot because of that prior narrative, and now they're just laying too many points.
It feels like the Big Ten is starting to separate in the sense that the top teams are beating the lower tier teams right now.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty easily. Like, we're at the point in the year where maybe not Michigan State so much today, but like I was all over Indiana this past Saturday over Maryland because they couldn't really afford a loss to Maryland on the road for their tournament resume. Like, I think they were pretty firmly in before that game, but had they suffered a road loss to Maryland, they'd be on the bubble, if not on the outside looking in, to be honest. So, like, key wins are a big thing at this point in the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And avoiding big losses, more for Michigan State today.
Yeah, that's what this would be for Michigan State, is a pretty bad loss at Maryland. So I think Wylie and I are in agreement that we like Michigan State in that game. Again, we'll talk. We'll do some Q&A about some other games. At the end, we'll have a little bit of time between when our regularly scheduled programming wraps up and when it's time for everybody to head over to the Book It stream. In the meantime, let's move along to category number 3.
Court streakers.
We're good streaking! Yes!
And to the surprise of literally nobody who's tuned into this stream before, the Court Streakers game today, highlighting a team that is on some kind of ATS or total streak, is for the third time in a row going to be the game between the Bowling Green Falcons and the Central Michigan Chippewas. I guess I should say the third time in a row featuring Bowling Green, because this team now has made 11 straight overs. We highlighted them when it was at 8. We highlighted them when it was at 9. We highlighted them when it was at 10. And they've gone over every time. And here, once again, Bowling Green with another mat game against honestly, a pretty shitty Central Michigan team that I think Bowling Green can really run up the score against. That being said, this total is sitting at 158.5, which is a really high number. So I've been wrong every time we've talked about Bowling Green, and I'm willing to be wrong again here and saying the under. The model has this going under by like a point, which is exactly what's happened the last couple times. And some of them have been close, some of them haven't been close, but they've all been going over. So I like the under. I'm going to get into my reasoning in a second, but Wylie, I'm curious if you agree with that, or if you think that Bowling Green over Wagon is going to continue to roll.
So I like the under today as well, and Bowling Green's going to get their points. I think they score 80. The question is if they score 100, because if they score 100, I think it goes over. I don't think they get there, but I don't see Central scoring 70 or like much more than 60, to be honest. Like the only issue that could like push this game over is like they played Eastern Michigan not too long ago, and Eastern Michigan scored 99. Central only scored 68, but that's over the total, just off of Eastern alone.
Yeah,
but I see this being like a 80 to 50 something type of win today. I'm going under.
I would love an 80 to 50 something type of game. So somebody in the chat said Dilberto is on Bowling Green spread. I am also on Bowling Green spread. I love that pick today. The model has this as an 89 to 67 Bowling Green win, which is a Bowling Green covered by a mile, and also a total of only 156.5 as opposed to the 158.5 that the total is listed at right now. And I think that seeing a spread like that is good for the under. We talked about it a little bit earlier with the Fresno San Jose State game, and it just, the difference is free throws down the line. We saw Bowling Green a couple games ago in their game against Eastern Michigan that kind of just went over in the last minute of that game. Really, it wasn't free throws, but that's just kind of the risk that you run with these. And I think against Western Michigan was another example of this, where they went over the total like inside the last minute on some free throws. And I think against this Central Michigan team, they should handle business. Central Michigan, I think, is the worst team in the MAC. Western Michigan, I guess, has a worse conference record. They're 0-9 in conference. But I think talent-wise, Central Michigan is right there with them as far as being the worst team in the conference. So I think Bowling Green handles business today. Tempo slows down the pace, and it goes under by 5 points or so.
I agree.
So see what the chat says. So the chat likes the under here. That is interesting. I think chat has been on the over every time so far that we've talked about Bowling Green, but maybe today is the day.
Yeah, I was surprised to see them all on the under as well. I think they're all expecting like, at some point it's got to give, and I guess today's the day for the public at least.
Yeah, perhaps. I'm definitely expecting to hear the over in this game on the Book It stream at some point.
Yeah.
That would not surprise me at all. In fact, I'd be surprised if we didn't see it.
Yeah. I'll make sure it doesn't go in LA.
Yeah.
Probably neither thought in LA, just because again, Bowling Green could quite possibly score 100. I don't think they will because I like the under here, but
Yeah. So you know what could be an interesting angle here is a Central Michigan team total under. So I'm just thinking out loud here. I don't know what this is at. I mean, I guess we could do the math. If the spread is 8 and the total is 158.5, you split 158.5 in half and you get 79-ish. Then subtract half the spread down to 75. So Central Michigan's team total is probably 75.
it is at 75.5.
75.5. Okay, yeah, and then they'll always either tack on or subtract a half.
Yeah, I like that their team total under.
Yeah, I think that could be an interesting angle. If we like Bowling Green to cover and we like the tempo to go low. I mean, so if both of those things happen, right? If the game goes under and Bowling Green covers, it's a mathematical guarantee that Central Michigan's team total is under. So if I have a pretty strong spread lean and total lean on the same game, you have to think team totals. So Public is on the under in this game. That's interesting. Public hates unders.
Yeah, I was surprised to see chat about that way.
But we are unanimous on this one. I like that. I like being different in opposition on some spots, but I feel confident when we are unanimous.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's go ahead and move along to category number 4.
Game of the day.
The ball is tipped, and there you are. You're running for your life. You're a shooting star.
And there was a lot of good games to choose from today in identifying the game of the day. But at the same time, it felt wrong to really choose any game other than the Texas Tech game. This is going to be a good one. This is Chris Beard's return to Texas Tech. So for anybody who might not be aware, University of Texas's head coach, Chris Beard, before this year was the head coach at Texas Tech. The Texas Tech fans loved him. He took them to a national championship game. He said that he wanted to build Texas Tech into a dynasty. And then what did he do? He up and left to their big rival, University of Texas, instead. So these Texas Tech Red Raiders fans hate Chris Beard.
He left for an arguably worse Texas team, at least at the time. But I mean, money talks, and Texas obviously has the bigger bag to throw at the coach. But I heard the fans were camping out for days.
Yeah, I think they were camping out like 72 hours in advance.
Yeah, and that's like, I've heard of camping out, but 72 hours in advance, that is something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is absolutely insane. I never did that for a basketball game. I mean, I went to a school where the games never sold out, but I still think I would not have camped out. So in this game, spread is sitting at -4.5 for the home Red Raiders. Over under sitting at 122.5. So Wylie, do you think Texas Tech can shove it in Chris Beard's beard, or do you think that Texas pulls off the upset here?
So I was actually talking with Lauren Cowling on Twitter yesterday, because she's a big Texas fan. Mm-hmm. And I said I'm probably gonna have to fade Texas today. We were talking about what we thought the spread would open up at, and we both thought like Texas Tech -3.5. Surprisingly, opened at 6. FanDuel didn't have it up at that time, but if it was to stay at 6, I would have taken Texas +6, just because I think it's going to be a really close game. I don't think I can take Texas +4, which is what it's at now. I don't think I'd take them +4.5 either. I like Texas money line here. I just don't envision a world in which they lose this game to Chris Beard. I think they're the better team, plus they have the narrative on their side.
So you're taking the Red Raiders here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't mind their spread. I'm taking money line to be safe, but this will be one of my plays for the day too.
All right. Do you have any thoughts on the total? So this total is pretty low, sitting at 122.5. Two very low tempo teams. So do you think that this rivalry, this narrative of Chris Beard is going to up the defensive intensity that we see, or do you think it's going to up the offensive intensity?
So I mean, these are two of the best teams defensively in the country, and like it screams under. I'm seeing a lot of the votes from chat saying the over, which is kind of surprising, but it's kind of what I'm leaning towards too.
You're leaning
Just because-
towards the under,
Towards the
or
over.
towards the over.
Yeah, I think it's very low tempo, very low scoring. But this Texas Tech team, like they play great defense, but it feels like they've been going over a lot more than people realize recently, especially over a total of like 123. I see this game ending very close with like 65 to 60 or something like that. Still low scoring, but enough to just barely get over that total.
Yeah, I'm with you. So the model has this game as a Texas Tech win, 63.7 to 59.8. So it's Texas Tech winning by 3.9 points and a total of 123.5. I think as far as my lean in this game, I'm going to go with the over. It makes me feel uncomfortable to say an over here, especially like considering what Texas and Tennessee did in Texas's last game. I was all over the under in that one. But man, I think that we're going to see some guys hit some shots, and I think that we're going to see a lot of free throws in this game. I think that we're going to see a very physical game, a lot of fouls, and I think there's just going to be so many free throws that it goes over.
And especially down the stretch, like I think everybody is in agreement and would be shocked if this game's not close at the end, which means free throws, whether it's Texas or Texas Tech fouling within a minute to keep the game close.
Yeah. So
Get some more points.
So Wylie, as far as your lean is concerned, can I get a spread or total, and not a money line, if you have one?
I would take at what it's at right now. I would take Texas Tech minus 4.5, just because I think it's very close. But I always like to take if I'm taking the favored team to win, I like to take them with the lower spread if I have to, because I think I see it a lot more than not. Teams getting fouled with like a couple seconds to go when the game's decided, and they just make those free throws and push out the cover.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, despite the model saying, this is a 4-point game, I would probably, gun to my head, take Texas Tech.
Yeah.
So a couple comments from the chat. I think somebody else addressed this, but somebody's asking about Chris Beard and knowing the old players. I don't think that that's going to be so much of a thing here, because this Texas Tech team does have a lot of transfers. It's not a lot of Chris Beard players. So I don't think that.
I don't think like.
I think there's like a couple guys.
They're just as defensive. Like Chris Beard's whole thing at Texas Tech, as we're seeing now at Texas, was defense. And I think while they're still defensive, they're not the same team. They don't run the same types of things under the new coach.
Yeah.
If anything, I think I give the edge for the couple of Texas Tech players knowing what Chris Beard likes to run, because it's like the players have obviously changed under the new coach, but they remember what Chris Beard did when they were there.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think a lot of people think that this always is in the advantage of the coach, but not necessarily. I'm actually curious. I know Ben, you're in the chat. Did you ever play against like an old coach, and how do you think that helped to hurt you, or if anybody else played fairly high level competitive sports and has experience with that firsthand, kind of playing against your old coach, or even as a coach, going against your old players. I'm curious what everybody's thoughts are on which side of that has the advantage. So let's go ahead and move on to category number 5, which is our best bets of the day. And as always, in order to make a poll for this category, what I need chat to tell me what your favorite bets are. So if you're giving me a total, give me both teams and the total and which side you like. And if you're giving me a spread, give me the team that you like and what the spread is. I cannot look up what the spreads are, so I'm just going to skip you if I can't see it. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to start typing stuff out. I'm going to play the little intro clip.
Big Brain plays.
Come on. Think. Brain blast!
And let's see where the chat is at. So I'm seeing a St. John's -3. I think that's a pretty interesting game to talk about. I'm seeing Texas A&M +11.5. I'm seeing a Nebraska. I'm going to wait and see if I can see anything twice, since we do have, I think, enough people. So I'm seeing, okay, so Providence +3. And I definitely want to spend some time and talk about that game.
Yeah.
After the fact. I'm showing, I think, Creighton +10.5 popped up twice. Maybe not. Auburn -6. That's another interesting one. See, a lot of guys on like opposite sides of the same game. There's like Iowa State and Kansas picks coming in at the same time. Although I see Iowa State in there a couple times at +2.5. Michigan State minus
Auburn
3.5. Yeah, I've got Auburn in there. And let's see what else.
Saw Nebraska, maybe only once though.
Yeah. Okay. I see North Carolina twice. Somebody said -3. Somebody else said money line. So I will throw in North Carolina -3.5. All right, so poll is up. You guys let me know from among those 5 options what your favorite bet of the day is. We will address several of the other games as well after the segment. So Wylie, what is your favorite bet today?
So 3 of the bets in the poll are three of my favorite plays today. I'll say them all. I'll narrow it down to one after, but it's Michigan State -3.5. North Carolina, I do like them with the points, so I took their money line just to be safe. And then Auburn. I got them at -7. It's unfortunate for me to see the line move down since I'm already locked in, but it doesn't sketch me out. And Auburn, I think, has got to be my favorite play of the day over the other 2.
All right, so why is that? Why is Auburn -6 your favorite play today?
I said this a couple weeks ago, and I don't see Auburn losing at home this year. And they've continued to not only win at home, but dominate at home. And I'm not saying they'll cover every home game. I do like them to cover today, obviously, but I don't see them losing at home. It's also, I think Bama's a bit overrated and overvalued. They just beat Baylor, right? That's a huge win. They have 3 wins. I think they're like 14-7 on the year, which is like kind of middle of the pack. They would be sitting on the bubble if they hadn't beaten these 3 current top 10 teams. But the win over Baylor doesn't stand out to me that much and doesn't mean that much to me because it's not the Baylor that we saw at number 1 early on in the year. Like Baylor's struggling right now. And they nearly lost to West Virginia again yesterday.
Yeah, and I think also, wasn't LJ Cryer out in that game for Baylor?
Yeah. And prior to that Baylor game, which Bama was at home, they lost to a bad Georgia team on the road. It's on the road, but we're talking about Georgia basketball. And they lost by 6 in that game on the road. Plus, these two teams have already played. They played at Bama already, and Auburn won that game by 4. They're at home this time, and it's a big rivalry game. Their crowd is crazy. One of the best atmospheres, probably the best atmosphere in the SEC. I like their atmosphere over Kentucky for basketball. And they just roll at home. They play great basketball at home. So I like them -6 today.
Yeah, I like this Auburn pick as well. The model has Auburn winning this one by 9.5. So I don't have any action on Auburn as of right now. I need to look into it a little bit more before I make that call. But that would definitely be the lean that I have. And I think one other thing that I want to add on that you didn't touch on is just Alabama's inconsistency. I think we know that between the win against Baylor and the win against Houston and the win against Gonzaga, that this Auburn team at their best can beat anybody in the country. But they're not always at their best. They struggle to reach that point, and it really comes down to 3-point shooting. They're a very three-point shooting heavy team. They rely a lot on that aspect of the game. And we've seen in SEC play that they've been cold a lot more than they've been hot from 3. And against a team that has the offensive consistency that Auburn has and the defensive consistency that Auburn has, it's kind of hard to trust Alabama to be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah, Bama doesn't play great defense either. Like, again, they rely on their 3-point shooting because it's going to be if they win, it's going to be high scoring if they win. Mm-hmm. And like everybody, and I don't really know why, I guess. And maybe it's because Auburn's offense is pretty good. But Auburn plays really good defense. I see a lot of people on their overs almost every single game. But they play good defense. Their offense is very good. But they have the defense to slow Bama down quite a bit, especially if Bama's not hitting those threes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the total in this game sitting at?
It is 157. And I touch the under there. I had a couple people message me about the over. I like the under.
Yeah, that's a lot of points.
Yeah. I think it's set this high less because of Auburn and more because of Bama, because they've been going way over. Bama has.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, my favorite play today is going to be another one that was in the poll. Also, the poll just finished up, and Auburn actually did win.
Yeah, I saw that.
So chat's favorite play is going to be Auburn. Funny how that works, right? Yeah. My favorite play is going to be the play that finished 4th in that poll, which is the North Carolina Tar Heels -3.5 against Louisville. And my reasoning is more this is just picking against Louisville than it is picking North Carolina. I know this is like the sketchy 3.5, 4-point road favorites in conference play that everybody hates. But I just don't think that this Louisville team is very good. I think if you just change the name of Louisville Cardinals to like Boston College or something, you can even have it at the same stadium with the same fans. I think that this spread is 6.5, 7 points. I think that Louisville's just getting a couple name recognition points here. They've just not been a good team this year. Even at home, they've lost 3 of their last 4 at home in conference play. They lost by 9 at home against Duke. They lost by 12 at home against Notre Dame. They beat Boston College, which is okay. Who cares? And they lost by 16 against NC State in their last couple home games. And their only other home win in conference, I mean, I guess they beat Wake Forest earlier on, but then against Pitt also. And those are all close games. This is a team that also, they lost to DePaul at home. They lost to Furman at home. I think that this is not enough points for North Carolina. North Carolina's been a little bit up and down. They struggled on the road for a stretch earlier. They got blown out at Wake Forest and at Miami. But I think that both of those teams are better teams than this Louisville one. So I like I like UNC to pick up a pretty easy win here.
Yeah, so again, UNC. I do have action on their spread too. I'm probably just gonna give out the money line just. I hate some fluke shit at the end, but North Carolina, Michigan State, and Auburn, my three pretty even equal plays. And like you said, North Carolina, it's more fading Louisville. Like, I don't think their crowd gets up for this game. I think they'll always have fans, right? It's not necessarily the easiest place to play in the country like some of these mid-majors, but their crowd got up for Duke because that spread was low. I took Duke and they handled their business pretty easily. And I think North Carolina also needs, like, they're in that position. They're probably in right now. But kind of like I mentioned Indiana before, this would be a bad loss for them on the road, and they need to avoid that for a tournament.
Yeah, and just looking at UNC's resume, they don't have, I mean, what I would call a real marquee win.
Yeah.
I mean, so who have they beat in non-conference? They beat Michigan, but that win I don't think is anywhere near as impressive right now as it looked when that game happened. The other big games that they played in non-conference, they lost to Purdue, they lost to Tennessee, they lost to Kentucky, and they don't really have a big ACC win either. I mean, who's the best team that they've beat? UVA, Virginia Tech, NC State. I mean, I don't know that any of those teams are tourney teams.
Yeah, this North Carolina team, I wouldn't put them in the same category as Notre Dame, but I mentioned Notre Dame yesterday because everybody thought that was a trap too. Notre Dame was missing that, like, they were like half a game back of first place before yesterday, and that, like, when I saw that, shocked me. But it was because they hadn't played any of the top teams yet, right? And this North Carolina team's kind of in that same boat. But I have, based on what I've seen, a lot more confidence in North Carolina than Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have the pedigree player-wise. I mean, there's legit NBA players.
The one and only thing that, like, somewhat scares me for this game is that they do play Duke next. And they could be looking ahead, but again, it's more like Louisville fired their coach. They're a mess right now. Didn't get that big win over Duke, and I think they just continue to fall apart.
Yeah. Oh, also, that's important. What Cornbread Red just said is that Malik Williams is out. I thought he missed earlier and then was back, but is he out again?
Somebody, I didn't have time to check it myself, but somebody messaged me or added me saying Louisville's best player was out today.
Oh, so nice.
He's suspended indefinitely.
Hell yeah. Okay.
I think that's why the spread has moved up to 3.5. I saw it at 3 this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I locked it in at 3 last night. Didn't want to give out a stale number on the stream, so I said 3.5. But okay. I mean, yeah, that's even better. Give me UNC. I liked UNC at this number with Malik Williams playing, and without their best player on both ends of the court. Give me the Tar Heels all day. Okay. So let's take a couple minutes and talk about some of these games that people have been asking about in chat. So the Rutgers one is one that people have been spamming. Let me see what the line is in that game. So Rutgers is on the road against Northwestern. Northwestern is a 5-point favorite. Over/under set at 132.5. Do you have any quick thoughts on that one, Wylie?
Yeah. So this is one. I wouldn't touch either side of the spread. I don't mind the under. I think this game goes under 132. 132.5. I saw it at 133 earlier as well. I also saw Northwestern at 4.5 earlier. So it's moving their way. Mm-hmm. Rutgers isn't what I thought they'd be. I thought they had a chance to be a decent little team, make the tournament. They're not living up to that at all. And Northwestern just plays close games. It doesn't matter who they play. They're the type of team that plays to their competition. So yep. I see this being close. I think Northwestern could pull out a cover late, but Rutgers could keep it close and win outright themselves.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. So the model has this game going under by a couple points, and it has Rutgers covering but not winning. So that's where I'm at. That's where the model's at. So what about Providence and St. John's? This is the ultimate sketch line, right? Saw this. You saw this one, and you knew where crabs would be.
Yeah. So, I lean Providence, and it's in part because Providence is the better team, right? Providence is undoubtedly the better team. It's also just because from what I've seen of St. John's, I was high on St. John's to begin the year, but they've just disappointed over and over. They have the offense to win this game. I think they could, if they shoot lights out, they'll win over Providence today. But they don't play defense, so Providence should be able to keep it close. And at least recently, St. John's has not shot the ball well at all. I was thinking about putting Providence on my slate today. I think I'm going to avoid it, but I lean towards Providence, barely.
Yeah, this St. John's team pisses me off because they should be so much better than they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they have several NBA quality players. I mean, Julian Champagny is better than his twin brother, who's currently playing in the NBA. Posh Alexander's an NBA player. But it's just like, there's always somebody or somebodies who has an off night for St. John's. They just can't, as a team, put it all together. So I'm showing that AJ Reeves is questionable for Providence in this game. I don't know if he's confirmed in or confirmed out at this point. But that could be a little bit of a difference maker. He's missed the last few games and it hasn't really affected them. But they've been closer recently. Providence had been blowing teams out, and they've been playing closer games without Reeves recently.
Reeves played 2 days ago against Marquette.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm shocked to see that he's questionable again. But
oh yeah, he came off the bench in that game. Maybe Covers is just late updating their injury reports, which wouldn't surprise me based on things that I've seen throughout the year. But either way, I have to fade this game.
Yeah, there's something about it that, like, I've been on the Providence wagon, and anyone that follows me on Twitter, I've been a big fan of Providence this year. Something's just telling me to stay away from this game. I think it's like a 1-2 point game on either side. Like, St. John's could win, but they might not cover, and Providence could win just as easily outright, but close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a game that could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if either team won by 20 points.
Yeah.
I think that's well within the realm of possibilities as well. So I think it is pretty much that time. We've been live for an hour. Talked about some games. If anybody's got any other questions about games, I mean, you can hit us up on Twitter. You can join the Capwise Discord. Throwing a link to that in the chat right now. You can talk to Ben and I in there. We'd be happy to talk about all the games. Plus, more than 1,000 other people in there. All big sports fans, big sports bettors. Be sure to join the Discord. It's a good time. Be sure to follow Wylie on Twitter if you have not done so already. Wylie is one of the absolute best college basketball handicappers that is out there. He is the assistant to Trent on stream for a reason. So be sure to follow Wylie. Any final words?
No, I think that's about it. Any of you that follow me, I appreciate it, and I was happy to come on today. It was a good time, good stream.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Looking forward to hopefully having you on again in the not too distant future. So appreciate you for hanging out. Appreciate everyone in chat for hanging out. Appreciate all of the follows that have come in. Usually like to call them all out individually, but when there's so many of them and so much discussion going on, it's a little bit hard, but we do really appreciate every single one of you. And thank you again to the people who subbed at the beginning of the stream. That was Will Water and one that I can't find in the log. But thank you. Appreciate those very much. Let's hop over to the Book It stream. See everyone tomorrow. good luck with the bets. Take it easy.